And that just shows that Satan sucks, and he hates marriages, and he hates godly marriages, and he does not want to see us succeed. And if we're going to try and, help other people have godly marriages, he's going to try even harder to tear us apart, so...
Everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Jen, and this is Fundie Fridays. This is my lovely boyfriend James, and he's off work for 2 weeks, so I'm making him be in all my videos. I actually think he's funnier than me, so we'll see.
Alright, today we're going to be talking about Paul and Morgan Oleguez, two conservative Christian YouTubers who are constantly on the Fundie snark community's mind because of their general cringe factor along with their conservative values and consistently shocking beliefs.
Now, I did try to find more background information on them, but literally every social media site they have, including their own website, has little to no information about them or why they're qualified to preach, basically.
And I want to highlight how unprofessional that is for two people who ask for as much money for their ministry products as someone like Paul or someone like Morgan does. We watched a lot of content from their channel, and if there is anything more prevalent on that channel than impromptu Disney singing, it is hawking stuff. Now, at first glance, Paul and Morgan appear to be your general run-of-the-mill conservative Christian millennial YouTubers. Cringy TikToks, cringy Vines. Wait, Vine's not around anymore. Cringy YouTube videos.
Paul and Morgan for the
all the good stuff, along with the standard side of bigotry and hatred.
However, certain patterns of behavior noticed by us and the Fundie snark community has left us feeling that maybe their relationship dynamics are not as healthy as they want you to think they are.
We're not claiming that Paul is manipulative or abusive, and we don't want to place any stigma at Morgan's feet for her mental illness. That both Jen and I are on mental health medications right now and are currently working through our own mental health problems. But we just like to highlight that because we understand mental illness both from some professional capacities and also from our own personal lives. So we're sympathetic, we understand, and even through all of that, we are still concerned enough that we feel we need to say something.
Morgan talks a lot about her mental health, generational curses, and how depression is sinful temptation from Satan. In this podcast clip I'm about to play, she talks about how depression is caused by literal demons.
Suicidal thoughts, or any mental illness, quote unquote. Yes, guys, it is a mental illness. I get it. It shows up on CAT scans. I know all of that stuff. There's scientific proof that depression is a legit thing. Well, guess what? There's also biblical proof, scientific proof that demons are real. There is proof that Satan exists. Just look around this world. Look at the darkness. Satan exists. And so why is it hard to believe that depression is actually the name of a demon?
Our concern here is that Paul seems very ego-driven. But in a culture where the husband is the final authority, that can lead to disaster very quickly.
Mental illness is a real backbreaker, and oftentimes people that are struggling with it will turn to religion. And they can be more likely to find comfort in a codependent relationship. I do appreciate how honest Paul and Morgan are about different topics such as sex and mental illness, but it can be kind of dangerous sometimes if you allude that you can pray the sad away. Morgan does give decent advice about how you should never quit your meds cold turkey, and you should always reach out if you're feeling like you might want to self-harm.
For real, don't quit your meds cold turkey. This ain't even in the script. I just have to say that or I won't be able to sleep at night.
However, I don't like how she endorses online Christian counseling because oftentimes services like that can be misleading or they're not properly certified.
And just FYI, if you're a consumer of mental health services, i.e. you go to a therapist or any mental health professional, you are allowed as a consumer to ask to see that professional's licensure and credentials at any time, and I highly encourage you. You are paying for a product, which is that therapy, and you deserve to know that the person who is administering it is qualified. All that brings us to Paul. Paul is a master of producing videos explicitly telling girls how they should dress to appeal to men, what boys like in girls, and how to be a proper Christian mate in waiting. Created to need a meat help. Is that what it's called?
No, help meat.
I don't know. Meat help's funny, though.
Help your meat.
Exactly. They're onto something. They didn't even know it. Hashtag meat help. Now, in the context of Paul and Morgan, this strikes us as particularly concerning because Paul and Morgan target, or at least would likely appeal to a younger audience. and they're most likely going to try and emulate what they see on screen being taught to them by a young, attractive, successful, Christian, wholesome YouTube couple. Now, Paul and Morgan's approach to making content is not inherently dangerous on its own or troublesome because it utilizes Disney sing-alongs and goofy banter. This is generally not content that's geared towards adults.
Weapons on you? Turn around. Tonight is a night that I'ma get twisted, but I'm a cop, so I'm not gonna mix it. Roll those wheels, we're about to diss this. Live in the present, the gift is for the gifted. This is what you came for. You get what you buy, this is what you pay for. Make sure the size.
And as such, we have to consider how this is going to be viewed through the lens of a younger viewer, most likely, rather than someone who's old enough to understand what they're seeing and parse through the nuances and the subtext of what they're being told by Paul and Morgan.
Next video, Misconceptions about Our Marriage. Paul and Morgan talk at length about how Morgan needs to learn to submit.
There's been this dichotomy of the husband, the man, desires sexual intimacy and the woman desires power. It's not uncommon for a woman, a wife, to desire to lead, to desire power, but then you look at the Word of God and the way that God has instituted things. There is a way that God has set it up and designed. That is to say, Morgan, like so many other women, sometimes resists.
Resist! Like Paul said, yeah, women want power. We want to lead, especially if we're good leaders. And I would say that I am a good leader. That was absolutely given to me by the Lord. But he didn't give that to me so that I could rule over my husband.
The way that Paul and Morgan approach the relationship dynamics of trust and authority is simply toxic. Your partner is supposed to be someone with whom you can share and trade ideas and process your hopes and dreams and concerns, not someone you should either be giving or receiving authoritative direction from on a consistent and systematic basis.
One of Paul's main traumas in his life is that Morgan has had sex before marriage and he did not.
Yeah, we're not kidding, y'all. They made an entire video of Paul boo-hooing about the fact that Morgan had sex before they got married and all the baggage that brought to the relationship.
And real quick, some of you guys are going to say, Paul, you have no right to... Like, Morgan does not need to ask you for forgiveness. Paul, you have no right to have Morgan, ask for forgiveness or whatever. Again, guys, you can say what you will. I was not holding it, as judgment over her. But at the same time, there is such a thing as asking for forgiveness. And, when you're looking to marry someone and you've, sinned in an area, first off, you better have asked for forgiveness to God.
He did not do anything to have to deal with this baggage. But... So just think, again, this is another reason why we need to humble ourselves and ask for forgiveness. I learned more about him and how pure he was and how innocent. I was like, oh my goodness, what? I am not worthy of this guy. And I even told him I tried to end the relationship because I did not feel worthy of dating him. I was like, you're too godly for me. I messed up. I have baggage, you don't need that. And he was like, no.
And like a good internalized misogynist, she defends herself the entire time for wanting to have sex too much, or wanting a hug, or maybe taking things too far, even though those are normal things.
Paul had not been as strict as he was with our boundaries. I do believe that I would have gone further. The Lord created sex. He created our bodies. He created our hormones. So it's all this stuff was rising up in me, and I was just like,
And guys, that's why we hit on so many practical physical boundaries videos. Because when you love somebody, and yeah, your emotions are building, that's why we encourage you guys, don't be dating for 4 or 5 years. What kind of sense does that really make?
They make sure to mention that Paul did not hold her sin against her.
A lot.
In our opinion, that is not a sin. It is not something to feel bad about. And even if you do forgive her, it's not really something that should be forgiven.
Paul's reaction should have been, your sexual history does not change my views of you. You have no reason to be forgiven because all of those things we're talking about happened well before you met or even knew I existed. You did nothing wrong, and I love you.
Paul reminds me of the sketch from Whitest Kids You Know.
Oh, yeah.
And did you, by any chance, date one Kimberly Robinson sophomore year at Jefferson County High School?
Yeah, I dated Kimberly.
On guard! Yeah! Yeah! Yeah!
Whoa.
Yeah! Kimberly is the love of my life. She's the first real girlfriend that I've ever had. And she's worth fighting for! Yeah! 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 Let me ask you something, man. Come here. Just let me ask you. Come here. Come on. Did you and Kimberly ever, you know, like, do kissing?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Oh, God.
Whoa.
Oh, my God.
Are you all right?
Oh, God, God, God.
You okay there?
Oh, my God.
Paul and Morgan's tagline is have hope and be free, but the lifestyle they advocate for is anything but free. Every facet of their lifestyle has additional demands and restrictions that you have to follow. Here are some of the boundaries that Paul set for Morgan when they first started dating.
After about a week of Paul and I texting back and forth and whatnot, it kind of happened on its own where the conversation just came up in a text conversation that we were having, just about like holding hands and full frontal hugs and kissing. I asked him, I was like, well, what are your opinions on this, because you seem kind of strict? And he was like, well, I don't want to hold hands really until like I feel like it's the girl that I could see myself marrying. And I, gonna be honest, thought that was ridiculous. I was like, holding hands? And then he was like, and I don't want to kiss until I'm at least engaged, if not like on the wedding day. And I was like, ugh.
Well, boy, this is all making marriage sure sound fun, isn't it?
The way that I've looked at how to love your husband in tough situations for the past year now is that it's not about your husband. It's not even about you. This is about the Lord. Yeah, guys, we're called into marriage to glorify God, not to glorify ourselves, not to get everything we want. We're called to marriage to glorify the Lord. So, like, if your husband is being just a punk, don't focus on him. Like, just, like, be like, all right, you know what? I'm not going to love my husband because he deserves it right now. I'm going to love him because God deserves it.
When you marry someone from Tinder that you barely know, you better sure hope that you're immediately compatible. Because in these hands-off, biblically driven, quickie marriages, the pressure is high and the escape routes are closed.
Whether or not these conservative fundamentalist YouTubers who preach this stuff understand it or not, the way that they're encouraging their viewers to live their lives inherently creates an intense pressure to get married young and early so you can get to the sexual activity that comes with it.
When you marry somebody you barely know, your partner might put a very private fight on YouTube for millions of people to see.
Alright, I hear what you're saying.
Just move on to something else. You just act like I never give you any loving. It's fine. It's fine. We need to move on. It's fine.
We did not literally find any hope or closure to that little scenario.
Fight's just uncomfortable to watch. It appears to be edited to make Paul look like the calmer, more relaxed, and, dare I say, godly participant in the fight, and edited to embarrass Morgan and make her look as unstable and immature and childish as possible.
This clip is deceptive because at the beginning there is a disclaimer about how real it is, yet there is large portions of the fight edited out. When you edit out footage in any context, you are trying to tell a story. So what are they trying to tell by showing you this fight? Because they certainly don't show you a better way to communicate.
All they do is curate a series of the cutest images from several hours of footage and edit them into a smash cut that's designed to make them look, even if they don't live up to it, as wholesome and as positive of role models as they can possibly be.
Well, that's the breakdown of their personalities, but what about the content of their videos?
Progressive Christians are promoting and saying that it's okay to live in this sin of sexual immorality, and we're here to say the Bible does not say that that's okay. So why are Christians, why are people who are claiming to be Christian?
Well, if you can manage to sit through one of their videos without falling asleep, you would see that they are anti-choice, anti-birth control, slut-shaming, Trump-supporting jerks.
I'll be checking Twitter because Donald Trump may be live tweeting. I'm not really sure.
Grace says, "Are y'all Republicans?" Do we want to answer this question?
All I'm saying is I probably won't be live tweeting them, Steven, but you should. I think that we can move away from politics for the moment, unless someone has like a very specific political question that they would really like us to answer. Ultimately, I don't think it ends super well to just like dive into a ton of politics stuff.
Oh, right. I think that you guys could probably just guess what we are, but...
You guys could probably guess the majority of the political things.
Her butt was just like a full shot.
The majority of the political things that we stand for and that we lean on, you could probably guess based on watching our videos.
Young children watch these videos. They idolize Paul and Morgan because they are young and charismatic and attractive. People like Paul and Morgan and Girl Defined have co-opted the language of the left to try to make being a Christian a cool and rebellious thing.
Make no mistake about it, though, what they're doing is making it cool to be bigoted and hateful.
I'm sure Paul and Morgan are nice people, and we don't want to have beef with anyone. But the topic of this episode just seemed different. They do legitimately believe in all these things that they preach, but it does not reflect the forward progression of our society that we live in.
You know, we're living in a society.
These types of attitudes about gender roles, sin, and purity will hopefully be a relic of the past.
The only thing I would have to add to all of that, Jen, is that Paul and Morgan are a really fantastic example of the kind of videos that show you how to watch for editing. Paul and Morgan present themselves as real and as authentic and as a cool, fun, trendy Christian couple that you might be friends with. It's important to understand that when you're watching a Paul and Morgan video, just like I'd say with Girl Defined, it's heavily curated and it's designed to present a very specific image that may not conform with reality.
Thank you for watching. Remember to follow me on Instagram, Tumblr, and Facebook. And remember to consensually smash that like and subscribe button.
And only if you've had enough time to properly evaluate whether or not you truly want to consent.
It's because I can only remember like half of a sentence before I have to look up. I'm not good at remembering lines.
The THC has melted your brain cells.
Smoke weed every day.